afternoon, viewers. I am Anondisha Hendricks. I'm the National Legal Manager for Civil, and I am so excited to be part of Legal Aid South Africa's first ever Facebook Live broadcast. March is Human Rights Month in South Africa, and we are taking this opportunity to educate you and everyone about our rights. Today we will be unpacking what human rights are, where they are found and listed, and also exploring something called the limitation clause. Now, you can leave any comments or questions about human rights below. We will be looking at popular topics that come through in the comments, and we will be addressing these as they come through. And we will also be addressing questions in the future videos in this month of March. Remember, if you need legal advice, you can call our toll-free advice line on 0800 110 110 weekdays. You can see it behind me, so it will always be here. We are open on weekdays between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And if you cannot call this number, you don't have a landline, you can also send a please call me on 079-835-7179, and we will call you back. So please like, share this video, and spread the word on human rights. Okay, so let's begin. I just want to say that I'm going to raise my voice a bit because in Johannesburg we have a storm, a hailstorm. It's loud outside. So if you feel I'm shouting, I'm apologizing ahead of time. I'm not shouting at you. I just want you to hear what I'm saying, because it's important that you know about your rights. So as I said, we have a constitution in South Africa, and in this constitution, it details our rights. In chapter 2 of the constitution, it is called the Bill of Rights. And just to give a background about human rights, what is human rights? It's rights that we all have because we exist. So you don't have to do anything special to have these rights. You just have to exist, be a person. And that's why it's called human rights. So in chapter 2, the Bill of Rights in the Constitution, it details the type of rights that there is. So it will talk about the right to dignity, the right to life. And as I've mentioned in future videos, we will focus on some of these rights, talk about detail of these rights, what happens and what you can do about it when something goes wrong. But for today, I just want to focus on in general, the rights and what I've mentioned before, the limitation clause. So in this Bill of Rights, we have something that is called the limitation clause. So the limitation clause is built into the Bill of Rights to limit the exercise of your rights. And you might think, why do you give me rights and then you want to limit it? And the reason is something as simple as, you have the right you have the right to walk freely. But that doesn't mean that you can walk into someone else's house without their permission. So that is the type of thing that where the limitation clause come in. You cannot exercise your right and then infringe actually on someone else's right. So, for example, something that is very popular now is the right to freedom of expression. So, does it mean that you can say anything, absolutely anything you want about anybody, and that is okay because you have the right of freedom of expression? No, so it doesn't mean that I can say the ugliest things or say things that actually infringes on the dignity of my neighbor because I have the right of freedom of expression. And that is what the limitation clause is meant to enable or cater for in the Bill of Rights. It is so that we are all able to exercise our rights equally, but also without infringing on anybody else's right. Yes. So, for example, something very simple also is you can drive anywhere. You have the right to drive anywhere, but that doesn't mean that you can contravene traffic laws. So, for example, in South Africa, we must drive when it is, you must take a maneuver on the road when it's safe to do so. The fact that you have the right to drive anywhere or go anywhere, the freedom to do that, doesn't mean that you can now do that in ongoing traffic and then, for example, put someone else's life in danger. And so that is the practical type of examples that I can make of why there should be limitations of right. There's also obviously big issues in terms of the right to life, and when we got a constitution post 94, for example. Previously we had the situation where people could be killed, executed when they've committed a crime, and one of the sentences could be that they are sentenced to death. After 94, our courts decided that the right to life is something that is so significant that even when you've committed a crime, even then, that it cannot be infringed. So our right to life in terms of the Bill of Rights I've shown you is protected against that. A sentence, we do not have a sentence where you can be sentenced as sentenced to life. I know that sometimes people feel that this is something that should come back, and the question could come up, is it something that we can bring back? So there are certain procedures in this constitution, as you some people might have seen with the land issue, of how do you change what is in the constitution. So it's not just something government can change, it's not something the judiciary can change, or one of the spheres of government can change on its own. It's a process where it must involve the whole country in order to change something as fundamental as the right to life, to cater for a situation where there is a sentence, for example, again. So that is just to explain how it works, and if anything in here can be changed or not, and who can change it. So like I said, the president, for example, can decide, I want to change it, so I'm changing it tomorrow. That is not how it works in South Africa. We have got a constitutional democracy, and so it details in this constitution how you go about, changing something in the constitution, which is a good thing, that we live by the rule of law. And the rule of law means there's procedures and there's rules in place, and everybody, the government, private people, they must abide by these rules, and the judiciary must enforce these rules, and there's separation between the two, so that there is no influence on the judiciary in terms of government, meaning government cannot tell them what to decide in cases, because then what does it mean? Then it means one person makes the decision. So this is what the Constitution gives us, in the Bill of Rights. It gives us, equality. We are all equal. We all have these rights, and everybody, including the government, must abide by these. And so, as I've said, please engage with us. Ask us about something that has happened to you. Does it mean that your rights was infringed? Or even if you just want to ask something about a right, talk to us. There's various practical situations that happen where people's rights are infringed. They don't know about it. Nothing is limited. Ask us about something that you want to know, and we'll be able to answer it. Something I also want to talk about is in terms of limitation. For example, when you are, as I said, you've got freedom of movement, the right to freedom of movement. But when you are sentenced to a crime, or convicted of a crime, and you are sentenced to a period in prison, so that means that your right to freedom of movement has been restricted, but it's rightfully so restricted. And so that limitation is right because the processes was followed, and you were convicted, and the decision was that you need to stay in prison for a period of time. So that is what the limitation means. It means that it works to protect us, actually, to protect the rights that we have. And like I said, so that we also don't exercise our rights to infringe on somebody else's rights. So to have, in the end, a situation where we're all equal. Yes. So, yes. So like I said, if anybody's got questions, they can ask us, talk about the rights that any questions you have about human rights. The whole month of March we will be talking about this. So if you don't get time to send it now, any time in March will be fine. And we will, when we have our next session, we will talk about it, look out. Or even if you are not comfortable asking it here and want to talk to somebody, use the numbers. As I've said, you will be linked with somebody that will provide you with legal advice. And so you will be able to have a conversation with somebody, and not necessarily just have to put your question here. Okay. So thank you for watching our first ever Facebook Live broadcast. We will be back on Thursday morning. We will try to do this at 9 a.m. Like and share this video so that the word on human rights is spread and people become aware and know where and how to ask about it. And until the next time, wish you then goodbye.